Thank you all for joining. Know it's the first day of this conference, so I appreciate you guys showing up. Today, we're going to be talking about subtle changes in your payment flow and how that can lead to bigger profits, particularly in the digital content space. Quick little backdrop. I know that last slide said presented by Will Cording. He's actually a colleague of mine. He's in Florida, batting down the hatches for the incoming hurricane. So sending him our thoughts, but also prefacing I had very little time to prepare today, so might be a little rough around the edges. So appreciate you guys bearing with me and showing up regardless. So a little bit about me. My name is Regis Vincenti. I obviously work at WorldPay. I lead the digital content vertical, business development in North America. I've been in business development for over 15 years, particularly focused on digital content. WorldPay for 6 years, where I've worked with some of the largest streaming vendors and merchants in helping them optimize payments. And really just excited to be here to tell you a little bit about what we do and how we can help drive bottom line revenue for content, for digital content providers. So what we're going to cover today, quick little get to know, like who we are, what do we do, why should you listen to us when it comes to payments, understanding the global picture. So, a lot of folks and customers in this space have a global audience. So having a global partner in this space is key to understanding what your customers want, how they want to pay for services, et cetera. We'll talk about optimization. What are the key tenets of that? What does that mean? How do you drive things like customer retention while also, decreasing churn and really just improving the overall customer experience when it comes to their payment flow. We'll summarize things with some key takeaways and then open it up for Q&A at the end. And we'll go from there. So WorldPay. We know payments and we have a global scale, hence the name. It's a great name. We're your payments folks, right? So we're a global acquirer. What does that mean? We enable customers to pay both in person and online. So we call that card present, card not present for goods and services on a global scale. We're the number one merchant acquirer in EMEA. I think we got bumped to second in the US, but we've been in the top three for the past decade plus. And we move over $1 trillion of commerce globally on an annual basis. So we really know this space, and we're hoping we can share some of our learnings of what we know as a global acquirer with you all to see how that's going to improve your customers' payment journey. So again, we've worked with some of the, we're trusted. We've been around for decades of experience. Everyone from retailers to banks to travel merchants, but particularly in the digital space, we work with some of the biggest and well-known brands, including some of these logos that you see here. And then, what does this all look like from a global scale? So, industry folks are saying a lot about payments, what this particularly means in the digital content provider space, right? How do we look at things like addressing streaming churn rates, right? We're kind of in this like post-streaming wars environment where folks have really gravitated towards their dedicated streaming platform. And especially with, macro level impacts, with inflation and whatnot, folks are looking towards potentially cutting back on their streaming services to save money, understandably so. We're seeing a lot of, questions regarding brand loyalty when it comes to streaming and content creation. And what does that all mean to you? Well, it means you need to have a partner and you need to be able to invest in this payment flow so that you can protect your customer base and help drive incremental revenue. And kind of piggybacking off of that, customer acquisition is costly. So when compared to customer retention, it can cost over 5 times as much. Again, you look at kind of the landscape now, and a lot of it comes to keeping those customers that you've already got on a subscription basis. And payment optimization piggybacks directly on that, right? And helping look at things like what types of payments are you providing or offering your customers to pay in? Are you looking at things like cart abandonment and approval rates, and being able to present in their local currency? All those things matter when it comes to retaining that customer base. And really, customers care, right? Maybe a quick show of hands. How many of you guys have been like buying something online where you've either been redirected to another site or you get presented with another currency and you're like, I'm out. Like, I don't want to, this is just not, this is not for me. I don't want to pay in euros when I'm in the US. I don't want to go to another website that's sketchy. I want to stay on the service that I signed up for and pay the service that I thought I was getting. So understandably, the vast majority of customers say that, the payment journey is important. It matters. If the vast majority of the customers are saying that, then as a content provider, you absolutely should be looking at how you can invest in improving that journey for your customers, right? And how do we look at improving that journey? So payment optimization is what we talk about, and it's kind of this step in that process. WorldPay being kind of a global leader in the space, thought leader in the space, obviously with our huge scope that we operate globally, we compile a global payments report annually where we survey over 25,000 customers across 9 different countries. And the whole idea and thesis behind that is, how do people want to pay for stuff? Like, what's the preferred payment method? And we find that, it can vary greatly by generation, by geographic region, and a whole slew of other factors. And it's, our responsibility as an expert in the space to make that data readily available so that our customers can act on it. Again, talking about preferred payment methods, 96% of customers prefer to pay in their local currency. I'm not sure who that other 4% is, but it's obviously the vast majority, right? Same thing with like a frictionless checkout process. Not being redirected, having some faith in the security behind that checkout process. What does that mean for the customer journey? It means that they're not going to abandon that checkout process and actually stay a paying subscriber or become a new paying subscriber. And again, those preferences vary by region. So, we'll put up a QR code at the end of this presentation so you guys can download that global payments report. It's a thrilling weekend read, even if you're not a payments nerd. Seriously, there's some interesting stuff in there. It's deep. You don't need to go that deep, but there's high level. There's some pretty interesting takeaways. And if you look at just this, a lot of you guys can probably speak to personal preference here. In the US, we love our plastic, right? So over half of online transactions are done via credit card or debit. And we see that skew heavily towards debit for recurring transactions, especially because it's a lower transaction value with things like subscriptions, right? Compare that to rest of world, you see digital wallets have actually eked out both credit cards and debit. What does that mean? You need to be able to offer the local payment methods and types that your customers are demanding and prefer to use. What a customer in LATAM is paying for Netflix might vary considerably from what a customer in EMEA is using to pay for their subscription on Netflix, right? So again, really important takeaways to understand that localities matter when it comes to optimizing your payment stack and payment flow. So we talked about cart abandonment. At the end of the day, what that means is if I'm a paying customer, I want as little friction as possible when it comes to that checkout experience. Things like we've talked about this, website redirects, having too many steps, having to fill in too many boxes. The most glaring one is retries. So if a failed payment attempt, usually you're kind of like, all right, I'm out. I'm not buying this product if my payment info didn't go through, right? 85% of customers feel that one-click payments are crucial for digital content transaction. That goes back to the preceding slide where we talked about the growth of digital wallets, right? That kind of falls under that category of a one-click payment. So again, being able to adapt, be agile as we notice all these changing trends in the industry is key. So managing payments, this kind of comes into our, if we look at the three pillars of what payments looks like in this space, taking payments, we talked about that, right? Being able to present a payment option in your customer's local currency and their preferred payment type. Now we're going to talk about how do you manage that? How do you look at ways to optimize things like approval rates, decreasing things like fraud, all things that will impact your bottom line, specifically as digital content providers. So very similar to what we saw with payment methods and preferences on a global scale, we see that confidence from a security perspective also changes. So, in the EU, for example, customers prefer biometric authentication. A lot of that has to do with region-specific regulations when it comes to online and card-not-present payments. In the US, we index heavily towards product reviews. At the end of the day, what this means is, customers want a safe, secure, trusted checkout flow, so that they're not going elsewhere, they're not leaving that site, and they're continuing with that subscription on that content that they want to get. So this is a terrible slide. Definitely something someone in marketing put together. I'd say max, you should have 3 numbers up on a slide, not however many this is. But what this is telling us, basically, subscriptions are key, right? They benefit consumers, they benefit content providers. And the consumers see the benefit because it's convenient. It's an easy way to access exclusive content. It's more cost effective. Typically, they want a seamless ad-free experience, and it just automates the whole thing. I don't have to think about my Netflix subscription, right? It's renewing, it's there. When I want to watch something, it's there for me waiting, right? It's simple, it's easy. 93%, this is probably the one number that should be stayed on this slide for our next version of this, but 93% of customers are likely to continue or start a subscription to access digital content and services. So we've seen a huge shift towards a subscription-based model when it comes to digital content. Payments are obviously a driving force and factor behind that increased adoption and maintaining, again, a frictionless flow towards that subscription for your customers. And how do you kind of tie this all together? So, reporting and analytics are key for this, because you need to be able to identify, okay, what regions am I under indexing from an approval rate when it comes to how many customers are trying to check out and how many are actually completing that checkout process. WorldPay allows our customers to get kind of a unified view into what that reporting looks like on a global scale. You can do things like monitor your performance, look at different content, look at different subscription models, adoption rates, cart abandonment, and most importantly, identify any dips in approval rates so you can act and maybe make adjustments depending on what the market realities are for that customer base. So that was managing your payments. We're going to close out by talking about how do you make payments. And when we talk about making payments in our industry, we're talking about simply moving money to other recipients in the workflow, whether it be content creators directly, advertisers, or other partners. So you think about the digital content landscape in general, a lot of providers have moved to kind of a decentralized format where you've got content creators globally. Like think of Twitch, think of YouTube, right? They're getting monetized for ads, for viewership, for their content. But how do you pay those content creators for that? You do that by having, a simplified global payouts infrastructure, and that's what WorldPay can provide. A lot of those logos that you saw earlier, Twitch being an example, but we help those customers facilitate global payouts so that their content creators can get paid on the basis that they set up on those contracts with those content creators, whether it's monthly, quarterly, etc. Same thing with ad revenue, right? So this is kind of the key final pillar in kind of that take, manage, make payments flow that we discussed. Last but certainly not least, customer experience, right? Customer experience is key. It's really the driving force behind, an optimized payment flow and optimized checkout process for your customers. 98% of customers want easy refunds. They want people to act when they're submitting a refund. They expect it to be acted on promptly. Again, it's a savvy customer base. At this point where we're at in the market, customers know what to expect, and then they're demanding that of their content service providers. Cool. Key takeaways. So we started with talking about how little changes when it comes to payments can really make a big impact, not just on customer experience, but on your bottom line. And to summarize, there's 5 main reasons why this should be important to look at, right? Enhancing those payment methods for your customers, being able to meet them where they want to be with their preferred payment options, whether it's a localized currency, a localized digital wallet, or payment method. Having a global provider that can support that is going to be key. Reducing friction. We talked about cart abandonment. All those negative factors that lead to, a person abandoning that checkout process. How do you mitigate that? How do you focus on improving your customer experience? Look at things like approval rates, reducing fraud, having a global footprint. All those things WorldPay can assist with. We talked about enhanced security. Again, key. No one wants to check out from a website where they feel like it's not a secure payment environment. You're putting in your personal credit card or debit card information. You want to feel safe about that transaction. Improving reporting. How do you actually take all this data from your consumer behaviors and act on them? We provide a consolidated reporting view into that. Last but certainly not least, payouts. So we talked about the decentralized content creation platform, right? If you've got content creators, advertisers, partners that need to get paid out based off of viewership, based off of content that's being viewed, we provide that global payout network. Cool. That was it. Got a lot of time, so maybe I drank too much coffee this morning. But are there any questions that you guys have?
Hi, first off, thank you for being here. So this question might not be related. I'm not well, let me just ask first. So from what I understand is WorldPay is a service to help people get more access to like more global payments.
Yeah.
And so my question is, how can this like benefit a local or like, let's say an indie content creator or something like that?
That's a good question. On the content creator side, it would definitely be more so the payouts. So how, let's say you are a content creator and you want to get compensated for your content based off viewership, you want to add revenue split, we would be in the back end facilitating that payout. So moving money from the platform to your digital wallet or your bank account, that's where we come into play, right? And to me, that's in that making payments. If we think about the 3 pillars, right, that's making the payment to you. WorldPay helps facilitate that. On the other end of the spectrum, the content platform needs funds from its consumers, right? Whether it's a subscription, whether they're buying one-off, that's the take payment side. That's also what we do. So, right, if I want to subscribe to content on YouTube, for example, and buy a premium subscription there, that falls under that umbrella. So we kind of do the whole end-to-end cycle of payments. We drive that commerce from beginning to end. And the stuff in the middle is what probably that content platform would be doing to manage all the disbursements, all the payouts, the pay-ins, and optimize accordingly. But on the content creator side, it would absolutely be payouts. That would be the biggest use case. Does that answer your question? You got it. Good question. Anyone else?